So I don't think the content we're looking at today is actually considered a raid, but I do think if this was in any of the other Borderlands games or in any other of the looter shooter games, that it could be considered the size and be considered the difficulty of kind of a raid or a mini raid. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about the Slaughter Star 3000, which is the third out of 3 Circle of Slaughter maps you can unlock in Borderlands 3, but this one has a few differences. It's on its own ship, so it's actually taking you to a whole different area that's not tied to another map, kind of like if you were going to a different planet. It's all Maliwan enemies on pretty much a Maliwan ship, and it also has 2 massive robot bosses that are out on the last round that you have to fight while facing the other enemies of that wave. And this, just pretty much throughout all of the waves of the Circle of Slaughter, it's overall much harder than the other ones. Even with what I consider to be the most overpowered build in the game for farming this type of stuff, it still takes quite a bit of time to complete these. And even with this overpowered build, if you're not careful, these bosses can still just down you pretty much instantly. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I've not seen a lot of people talk about the Circle of Slaughter at all. I didn't even know about the 2 end bosses in it. And I think this shows us kind of a glimpse into what could be coming next with the takedowns of the game, which are to be pretty much the raids of Borderlands 3. And it's also fitting that the first takedown is going to be a Maliwan takedown. And with this ship being pretty much facing all Maliwan stuff, I could even see this ship kind of being something that we go through to go to this Maliwan takedown. Now, I wanted to show you guys an entire run of the Slaughter Star 3000, so while I'm talking and rambling, there will be footage of that going, and then after I'm done talking, the rest of the footage will be shown, so you guys can see the big boss at the end. So the reason I want to talk about this is because I have not seen a lot of people talk about this, with it being a pretty big chunk of content with a lot of custom stuff in it. And also, I didn't even know about these bosses in here until I went in here to test it, and to my surprise, on the last round, when you're facing waves of enemies that are some of the strongest enemies in the game, in my opinion, the 2 massive robotic bosses that are custom named seem to have custom models or are more detailed, bigger versions of other models that also have multiple destructible pieces of them that remove attacks from these bosses. These bosses have their own custom attacks, and they're just massive and seem to be too detailed for just being in the Circle of Slaughter, that don't seem to really drop any custom loot unless they're just extremely rare. And with fighting these bosses, I couldn't help but think that these seem to be testing or just kind of a glimpse of what's to come with the takedowns in Borderlands 2, which, if you don't know, takedowns are supposed to be the raids. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this Circle of Slaughter is on its own custom ship where you're fighting all Maliwans, and the first takedown just happens to be a Maliwan takedown, which is with its own unique area and boss. I would not be surprised if we use this ship to actually go to like the Maliwan takedown area, or if it's some way tied in. And I would not be surprised if these big robots, or basically robots like this that share the models, share the destructibility and abilities, are not in some way mini bosses or pieces of a boss fight in the Maliwan takedown, because I think they're kind of too custom, have too much work put into these 2 big bosses to just be in this Circle of Slaughter. And I do think this is definitely a glimpse into what we're going to be seeing in the takedown. And I just kind of want to talk about this and show you guys what's actually in this, because I was super surprised, and it's actually really cool just to see the size of 2 bosses that they put in one small map area. They have to face at the same time of other waves of enemies. So that's kind of all I wanted to talk about, just that I wanted to show you guys that this is actually a piece of content in the game, and just show kind of the scale that they have put in this relatively small area with a small piece of content, that they've put this much scale into this, and that kind of my hunch that this is going to somehow tie into the first Maliwan takedown, and that I do think that this hopefully shows that we're going to be getting some really big in scale content for Borderlands 3, with, you know, DLCs and free updates and stuff like that going forward. And just to let you guys know that you should definitely go try this. I was super surprised and super excited when I realized that these two massive bosses just show up in this. And, you know, that this definitely, in my opinion, does show that the scale of future content, I think, is going to be pretty massive for Borderlands 3. So that's pretty much all I want to talk about, just ramble about this type of stuff. This does honestly feel, when I was first completing it, that it does feel kind of like a miniature raid, or kind of like a dungeon or something like that. And, you know, as I said, hopefully this can show us that the scale of future stuff for Borderlands, especially the takedowns, are going to be really massive, because I would be surprised if they didn't up the scale for, you know, a Maliwan raid when they already have something this big just in one circle of slaughter. So it's pretty much all I want to talk about. Subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about all the stuff I just talked about. If you think this is going to tie in to the Maliwan takedown, if you guys have actually seen this before, you know, let me know, you know, if you guys go and try to complete this, how actually difficult it is for you, with the different builds, the different classes, all that type of stuff. And thanks for watching.